Woohoo!
Good evening.
Good evening to you. I started writing some notes and then I stopped.
I dropped a couple of things in, but it's not specifically all that big either.
Yeah, I saw that and I was kind of. I didn't see the link until just now.
Well,
I saw the other. I saw the other two,
and the link was just for kind of what made it even come into my mind. I don't necessarily want to talk about the link. I was thinking maybe it would take it and pivot a little bit to how, as a parent, how do you think about it more than that specific link?
Oh, it's so tricky. Yeah, I kind of would like to talk about that, but I also kind of want to talk about some Apple stuff, which is very I don't know.
And I'm perfectly fine with that. Like I just looked at that article today, so I kind of need to let it sit in my head a little bit too.
I'd be happy to move it to next week because I've had some thoughts on it. Because it's like I want to, it's really easy to be the gender affirming parent ally when your kids are obviously not going to go through this. But then when you see someone else go through it, then it's like, oh, it hits a little bit harder. It hits home a little harder. And it's like, I've had thoughts on it. So
yeah,
I still feel the same way. Like I still feel like I want to be the, you are who you are, and you discover that for yourself. And, I want to provide a safe place for you to discover who you are. But I think that as parents, that's something that we should be doing anyway with other aspects of, we're not just, gender and sexuality.
Yeah, I agree. And part of it is also thinking about same mentality, right? It's real easy to say that when at the moment I'm not dealing with it. But at the same time, how do you navigate being supportive and understanding and being part of that, and still, if there is something you disagree with, being able to communicate that in a way that doesn't demean it,
Yeah.
So there's a lot that I want to think about there, and I think it makes sense to move it.
We should include this in the show as a teaser for next recording.
That works for me. And with that, we can just jump into my little Microtopics real quick, unless you want to do your follow-up first.
Well, your Microtopics are first, so I think that we should do that. It's like an amuse-bouche for the ears. I know bouche's mouth bouche's mouth is in French, but I don't know what ear is, so I don't know what an amuse. I don't know what it would eat. I don't know. I have the whole internet at my fingertips. I could look it up.
But that'd be too easy.
I'm doing it.
There's so little for me to actually say other than, one, I didn't realize how much having good, comfortable outdoor furniture would mean that I find myself sitting in it more and more often than I ever would have thought.
It's brilliant.
And that's really it. That's the big thing. Like I constantly find myself saying, you know what, I'm going to go work out here for a little bit.
Mm-hmm. I think even having a good outdoor space, having a good outdoor space with comfortable seating, comfortable furniture, game changer. But half of that is having a good space as well. So,
yeah, I'd agree. Because even if I didn't have the comfortable furniture, having the space, I was finding myself gravitating toward at least spending more time out there than I did at the old location.
Yeah.
The other one, we did a yard sale to try to get a bunch of stuff out, and I didn't feel like we sold that much. I mean, we made a noticeable dent, and I definitely got the bigger items that were just taking up too much space out for the most part. But I would say we probably sold a third of what we had in the yard sale, and it didn't look like it was all that big, and it was almost $1,000 in proceeds from yard sale. And it's not like we were doing, $30, $40 for something. Like pretty much everything was below 20.
Wow, that's impressive.
And then most of the rest of it was stuff that we weren't overly concerned about regardless, and just scheduled to pick up for donation. And there are a few things that we didn't do that with. Like there are a couple of chairs that we'll sell independently that we still have. But for the most part, everything that we actually wanted to make sure we sold to recoup some cost out of sold. So I might be able to get a vehicle in the garage by the end of the year.
That'll be. You should aim for before it gets cold, which is the end of the year. Because sometimes it's warm in November.
Yeah, I did order 2 static overhead shelves. I know I would love to have the lift thing, and we talked about that before, but just for the sake of, 1, expediency, and 2, just cost, I went ahead and ordered 2 of the 4 foot by 6 foot overhead shelves that you attach to the ceiling.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm going to use both or if I'm just going to use one. I figured I'd just get to have them here, kind of figure out layout. With those, I should be able to get 1 vehicle in the garage probably by the end of the month, actually. What I don't know is if I'm going to be able to get 2 in by the end of the year. Mostly because I don't think I can get 2 in until I build something outside for the mower.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
I said winter, but like summer is also a good time to have a car in the garage because it's
so ridiculously hot.
Well, even outside of that long term, it's like nice to like prevent UV damage.
Yeah, I think the only saving grace at this point is that massive tree that we kind of get some benefit of parking under most of the day. I mean, there's a part of the day where I don't, but I think all day. Maybe there's a very short time frame at one point where Emily's vehicle's not in the shade, but part of why I had her take the inside spot closer to the house was because it would be more consistently shaded.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, once you do get them in the garage, you're still not. You're really not. Currently, you're really not. Trying to figure out how to say this in my head, but really, what I'm trying to say is, it's like the before times.
Yeah.
Even if you had a garage, you drive in the morning to your place of work, which was likely not in a garage, and it'd be sitting there all day, and then you drive it home to park it in the garage overnight.
Yeah, we only really get the benefit of them being in the garage at this point because we're still able to work from home.
Yep. I don't see that changing.
I don't either. I have a lot of thoughts on that too, especially with a lot of the back and forth and things that you're seeing in the news with some companies trying to take a hard line stance and workers revolting and everything. But I think for us, everyone has realized that as long as we're given the flexibility to do what fits our style of work, we'll get it done. It's just a matter of, am I working with remote participants and equipment from an office location, or am I doing the same thing from a home location?
Well, I think even on top of that, it's like there's already so many people at our company that were working from home in the before times or on the road warriors, that this was not a foreign thing. Like, and now like there's no semblance of what our work used to be like.
Right.
I think I guess there's a QA lab that's always going to need to be there. But that's about it, because like I think if I'm not wrong, like any of the build servers that we have, those can all be moved to data centers.
Some of them already have.
I knew some of them already had, but I knew they could all, like what's left in the server room, all of that could actually be moved. I don't know if we would move I actually assume that we would move the hardware, unless they're well, not all of it. Some of it might it might be beneficial to run on other hardware, like Azure or AWS or something like that. So it just depends. So.
Yeah, with the current roadmap and some other things, it wouldn't surprise me for some things to be moved to potentially AWS. But there's a lot of questions there still.
Yeah, I thought we were going to go all in on Azure.
Yeah, I'm glad we aren't at this point. But I mean, the only reason it was all in before was because of ties.
There was a significant advocate for it. This sounds more like personal conversation than podcast.
It does. That's why I also was kind of being mindful of making sure I didn't say something that would identify the wrong things.
Yeah, me too.
But you had follow up.
I do. The follow up was I feel like I dissed paddling how one paddles a canoe more than discussed how much I really enjoy paddling a kayak with a double bladed paddle. Double bladed meaning you've got like a stick with blades on the end, a paddle blade on the end of that, on each end of that stick, whereas a canoe paddle is a single bladed paddle. I have a friend that paddled competitively for a while, and he had a coach. I think his coach was he did distance coaching. This is actually in the before time, so this is before we all had to do things from the distance. But he had a coach in South Africa who was I think a well decorated. Is it I don't know if it's decorated for winning a lot of competitions, but
well, that's typically how you would describe it anyway.
I usually think of military with well decorated, but
well accomplished.
I think it works here too. Yes, paddler, and she was giving him instruction. There's this great video of me sitting on my boat out at Oak Mountain, and I'm recording him so that he could have a different vantage point to send to his coach, and I'm twisting in my chair, and all of a sudden you hear me cursing as I fall into the water while holding my phone. The video is not quite as dramatic as the moment was, but like I kept the phone out of the water. It never got wet. I didn't lose it, didn't get it wet, didn't damage it. But I had my life jacket on, and it was zipped properly, even though I was on flat water, not doing anything. But I knew that I wasn't paying attention to me being in a boat, and that's these are the reasons why you wear a PFD. So I'm going to come back to the paddling of a double because I really like it, but I'll come back to the PFD. My goodness me. So I really enjoy paddling. So basically, because through my friend, I learned to properly paddle a kayak. You think you just go out there and you just, you pull with your arms and you do. But the majority of your power comes from your legs and torso. A lot of core strength in that, and your arms are just stabilizing the paddle and guiding it. You don't do much pulling at all with the paddle. You actually use your arm to keep the paddle straight, so that you can use your core to pull it through the water. So your arm is more of a brace and guide than anything else, and a reset. So those three things. I don't know if that's translates well over voice without actual showing.
Well, I think it does when I add on a piece. So I don't know the proper technique for paddling a kayak, but I had to learn proper rowing technique for the rowing machine, and it's very similar. Yeah. I mean, you're using probably, I'd say, 70 to 80% legs and core. Your arms are really just kind of pulling that last little bit because you're trying to maximize the stroke distance. But you will feel it in your shoulders because of repetitive motion, but that's not necessarily where the bulk of the work comes from if you're rowing correctly. Now, you can row incorrectly and do a massive amount of upper body work too. And I know some people that do it, but then you tire out very quickly.
I think you tire out very quickly, and it's never going to be as powerful. Your arms, no matter who, I don't want to.
It's
more
true.
Than likely, no matter who you are,
unless you have some sort of disablement, like a.
Yeah, I was just going to say, because I was going to say I do remember this guy who had his legs amputated. Both legs were amputated, and his arms were massively strong because he walked on his hands.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I have heard of folks doing that.
Yeah. So for intact able-bodied person, your arms are never going to be as strong as your legs or core. I was teaching my children, because my children are now getting at the age where they can do more work, and I was teaching them how to use their legs to lift, because I can remember hurting my back when I was 14 because I didn't know. So I always I get onto them, like it's, there's a, I guess, to go biblical on them, I rebuke them when they don't use their legs for lifting.
It is important to learn that pretty early, because it's very easy to slip into lifting incorrectly later if it's not ingrained in your head.
It is, and you know what? A lower back injury as a young adolescent could stay with you for the rest of your life. So the other thing I wanted to, I know that we talked about it a significant amount or a good amount, but I just wanted to reiterate, because even when I was listening to the podcast, the released version, even though I feel like we made a strong case for PFDs, personal flotation devices, aka life jackets, I just wanted to reiterate that if you are on the water, no matter how strong a swimmer you are, you should always wear a PFD. You should always have a PFD available. It is, like I said, you never know when you twisted a little bit too wrong in your chair and you fell out of the boat. And even if it's that was never going to be a life-threatening circumstance, but I didn't have to worry about my body, because I had my PFD on and I was able to save my phone. So, and then in this situation where you do have to worry about your body, it's really important to be as safe as possible.
If I'm not mistaken, even with a lot of distance swimmers, they'll pull the newer lifeguard style flotation devices behind them on a strap while they swim.
Yeah.
And I was just, it's the same idea. It's the exact same thing. It's just you have a flotation device available. It's just not a vest that you're wearing because you're attempting to train for swimming. Yeah,
I've seen where it's also I've seen people training at Oak Mountain in the little pond. They call it a lake, but I think it's a pond. But there's no official. I think we talked about this in the first early episodes. There's no official distinction between pond and lake, but I've seen people use a flotation device as to be for safety, and two, for a marker. Like, you need to be seen by other people. So that's important too. You don't want to be, it's like you've got, I think it's Aaron Ralston. He was stuck in a cave for 127 hours, had to cut off his own arm. You don't get that luxury while swimming. You don't stay in the water for 127 hours.
Yeah, I don't know the actual cap, but I don't think it's humanly possible to survive if you do. I mean, one of the things that people don't pay attention to, water will draw your body temperature, unless you have appropriate precautions. It will leach away heat from your body faster than most people give it credit for.
Oh yeah. I mean, even I think if you're in warm water, there's a lot of factors, because you're never going to be in water that's the same. I'm trying not to throw out the scientific term, like trying to go with the lay term, but you're never going to be in water that is the same consistency as you. You're either going to be in water that you're going to draw water into your body and increase your through osmosis, you're going to increase your water volume, or you're going to be in water that is outside of that, or that's in a higher volume. Like, there's no real middle ground. Like, the human body on average, excluding the kidneys, they measure 300. The unit is milliosmol, and most freshwater lakes are 10 to 100, and most oceans are 1,000. So regardless of where you are, you're either going to have water being drawn out of your body or pushed into your body, or drawing in water. So I don't think you can survive.
I've always heard you can't, so I assume that's the case. I don't think I ever researched it enough to know the full details, but
I just remember They were talking about that in a physiology class.
I know there was a reference to it at some point in diving, but of course diving, your first concern is just access to oxygen, because if you're submerged, you're not lasting 127 hours anyway.
No.
There's no combination of pressure and breathing in gases and everything else. There's no way you could survive underwater without some sort of exterior protection and not having to rely on scuba apparatus for that long.
My brain goes to The Abyss. That's an excellent movie. I remember, I was familiar with it. Such a side tangent here, but I just remember loaning it to a friend in college, and because she liked Alien, she liked sci-fi, and she handed it back, and she was like, "Okay, this movie took a huge left turn." I was like, "I guess it does."
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, I didn't really think. I was like, I thought this is where we were going the whole time, but it was the director's cut, so. It had the inclusion of the destruction of the. I don't even remember what is in the theatrical release anymore.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to watch both versions and refresh my memory, because I know that I have seen both, but I think the theatrical cut is the one that I watched most. I don't think I had access to the director's cut for a long time.
I think I watched it just maybe one full time, the theatrical release one full time. Bought it and had the director's cut, so I've seen the director's cut more than.
Actually, come to think of it, I'm not 100% certain I own a copy. I may have always just watched it either at other locations or when it aired on any channel. And by any channel, I of course mean subscription channels, not just over the air. It's rare for me to watch just plain over the air broadcast movies.
I can't. It's
Sometimes I will, just to see how badly they edited things.
Yeah, okay, that's fair. But you don't watch the whole movie, do you?
It depends on the movie. If I like the movie enough and I just want to laugh through it, then yeah.
Okay.
But it has to be one that I've seen enough to almost know by memory.
Yeah, I was watching something the other day. I was like, I don't remember this being in here. I can't even remember what it was that I was watching. Anyway, I wanted to talk about some things from California.
I'm game. I have not watched all of the last part of the keynote. I did at least catch back up and make sure I caught any of the major things I missed up to the last section, the one more thing section. So
we are not Apple pundits. We've just been enthusiasts. We both worked for Apple. We worked there together. That's how we met. So I kind of wanted to, do what we kind of do when we want to talk about Apple and talk about the things that are not being talked about by the other pundits or the other. Is pundits the right word? I don't know.
And it works. You want to, if you want all of the neat technical details or anything like that, we're probably not the ones to listen to.
Right. I kind of wanted to talk about they released this mixed reality headset, and I want to talk about I think the tech is really cool, but there's some things I've already shared my thoughts with you, but I kind of wanted to go in that direction.
Yeah. I think before we launch into that piece, there's one piece on iOS that I kind of want to mention that caught me, I'm not going to say by surprise, but the new contact poster things and the way that design element is kind of being driven for things being nice and big and bold and at least limitedly customizable, I think is kind of nice after all the years we've had of just flat minimalist design.
Yeah.
Without taking away from, because I like a good minimalist design as well. And I think this is a way to add some of that fun back into it without having to strip the minimalist aspects away completely. And so I kind of like that.
I do too. I haven't accepted anyone's contact the way that it's been since it's been implemented at this point, because this is here I can. This is how I want my. As I understand the feature, it's like this is how I want my contact to look. I push it to you, Jesse. I push it to anyone in my contact list that I want to push it to, or they see it because I have it available. And then you, as the user, you say you can reject that or accept it. And I think this is just like further modification of that, if I'm understanding correctly.
I think so. I mean, it's kind of tough to say because I don't have more than one device running the beta. I only have my developer phone running the beta. Which is just my old 12 Pro because I kept that one. And so until I have another device and can kind of play with it back and forth, it's difficult to say for sure. But I think the way this actually works is it doesn't change how you have anything stored as far as your contact
it's
goes.
Just pushing through for the call.
But it allows me to push, this is how I want it to be presented.
I kind of like that.
Yeah, I do too.
Like, I don't think it's too much of a invasive sort of feature.
And I think I'd like it because it does allow, I mean, I'm not going to necessarily go through and set up contact photos for everybody in my phone. And this allows me to, for anyone who's taken the time to do that, get something that they want to share. And so great. It's a very quick, easy visual identification method that is a little more fun. And we'll see. I don't know how it'll be in practice, but the initial thought of it I liked. And then the updates to autocorrect, if they work, I like.
They said, I was going to say, they said all the right things. Like, they've said all the right things, but they've said all the right things before. So, proof is in the pudding.
Yep. But those were the only two things I wanted to mention before we started to kind of go into the topic you had. And we can always talk about other stuff too, but those just were things that jumped into my mind as I watched that I wanted to make a note of.
I think I'm overly excited about the standby mode.
I don't really know how I feel about it yet. So because it's a 12 Pro, I'm not using standby mode anyway on that one. So whenever I feel it's good enough to put on my 14 Pro would be when I would really test it and see what I think.
I love the idea. I already like it with the watch because the watch does it when you're charging it and put it sideways. I like that. And, it's a nice bedside alarm clock.
See, I do miss that from the watch because now that I'm using the Ultra, I wear it to track sleep because I can get 2 full days charge without a problem.
Yeah.
And so standby mode may actually give me the benefit of having that back. Excuse me. In some fashion. We'll see. But I always did like that with the watch too. It's the one thing that I wanted to make sure when I had bought a stand for it that I could put it sideways or vertical depending on how I wanted to charge it.
Yeah, I like it. I'm pretty excited about it. I think there's actually there's been a lot of really good stuff in there. It's even though they blew by it. I thought there was oh, this looks good. I'm surprised that the idea of their sticker thing, being able to use emojis as stickers. I didn't even, because I've gotten to a point where it's there are other messaging services that allow me to use emojis on as reactions to things, and I was like, oh, I guess with iOS 17 you can use emojis as stickers.
Yeah, I do use emoji more often than I used to, but I still don't tend to use them that often, and I use stickers even less. So
I never use stickers.
I use them when I want to send something funny every once in a while, but it's normally I'll see that a sticker pack exists that's really interesting that's available, like Star Wars ones, for example. And so I'll get them and I'll use them when I got them just to send a few that I like, and then I never think to use them again because they're more or less buried in the UI. And so I am looking forward to the UI changes where you just have the little up button.
Yeah. I was going to say they're going to be buried even further.
Yeah, but they're more accessible, I think, than having to scroll through and find the app because all the stickers would be in one place.
Scrolling left to get deeper into that is maybe less accessible than how it's going to change. So you scroll up and down.
Yeah.
Vertical. I think that's the word they use. Vertical. Did you see? I was going to say. I don't even remember most of the features in Mac OS that they added. I mean, they're more or less. It's like, hey, we're making sure there's parity with iPhone applications. I thought that was kind of cool that you could. Let's see how it looks in practice, but like you could have like a slideshow behind you and continue to present.
Yeah, I mean, that was neat. One of the things that I laughed at, I don't remember what they used to call the feature, but you used to be able to put widgets on your desktop. And
Dashboard.
Widgets moved. Okay, that's what it was.
Yeah, I totally thought they were bringing Tiger Dashboard back.
Yeah, so I like the fact that that's coming back. It's kind of full circle to an extent. Maybe a little bit better implementation this time around, but I do like that. And so it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Sorry, I think I interrupted, but that.
Oh, no. That was worthy. I just, it actually wasn't an interruption, but I was just thinking, I'm always going to think, why can't F11 bring up my widgets? I think it was F11, F10, something like that was the dashboard. I can remember.
It was one of them for sure.
Yeah. I can remember I had an iMac G5 that I was using, and it had Tiger, and the widgets were cool. I mean, it was a cool idea. I liked it, especially, and then I think, they iterated on it a few times, and you could like grab any snippet of a website and put it in as a widget. And I thought that was actually pretty cool. But that was all made sort of obsolete because now we have apps on our phone that send us notifications and I guess apps on our computers that send us notifications in a way that kind of made it unnecessary. But it's coming back, and I think it's a good idea. I probably overly excited for profiles in Safari.
Yeah, I don't really know that I have much thought there because I still use two physically separate computers, and I don't tend to mix work and personal because I have them both accessible.
I'm probably going to go that way, but I'm still going to want to do it if I can.
Yeah, it makes sense. Like I have been debating whether I might consider an M2 series notebook in the next year or an M3, just depending on timing and when things get released. And if I were to do that, I could see myself considering consolidating some of my stuff onto the one device. I always hesitate to go that way, though, because that would be a personal machine. And if I'm going to consolidate, I'd rather consolidate more toward a work machine.
Yeah.
So I probably still wouldn't really have a use for it. But then again, there are a lot of features that I never thought I would have a use for that I eventually had a use for, even if it was short-lived.
I thought there was some cool watch stuff. I don't remember any of them except for some stuff for hiking. You can look at your elevation.
I do think I'm more excited about the watch stuff than most other things because of the real estate on the Ultra. I'm not sure how I feel about widgets making their way to the watch. That's going to be curious to see how useful they are. But I do like the updates for the Compass app and everything, and it having the waypoints. And I like, similarly, the updates to maps where you can download maps for offline use.
Oh my gosh, in iOS?
Yes.
Yeah.
And topographic maps.
Yeah, that's significant. So I forgot about that. I'm very excited about that. So,
and I'm also really interested in the Journal app, and the fact that the API is going to be opened up to third parties means that it could be real interesting to see how the folks over at Day One leverage it as well. I think that off the top of my head, those were all the main things that I remember. Oh, no, one more. I really like the midnight color on the MacBook Air.
I think I've seen it in the store. I don't remember. Maybe not, because like I can't really remember thoughts on it, but yeah.
I just hope they finally bring something like that to the pros.
I'd like for them to do that as well. I feel like they're just going to keep going with the space gray and silver.
Yeah, I fully expect that. But at the same time, I didn't really expect them to do the blue and the air. So, I can hold out some hope.
Yeah, I think they should. I'm glad they put out a 15-inch MacBook Air. That's something they've needed for ever. Because they've always pushed you into a pro computer for the larger display, and sometimes you just didn't need it, or you didn't need all of the.
You didn't need everything that came with it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm still. So one of the things I'm still torn on is deciding when I do decide to go with an Apple Silicon device for my many creative endeavors. Do I stick with replacing the laptop, or do I add like a studio to the mix? Because it's not strange for me to think about working for the most part in a stationary environment with my planned creative endeavors, and I just need a laptop to be able to maybe import some things and check some stuff on location more than actually work with it. I don't know. I expect that I will still go mobile because I like the flexibility of having a mobile workstation. But it's more of a debate than it's ever been in the past.
I was gonna say just the opposite. I think it is more. I think it is Apple Silicon. If you're debating whether or not do I go mobile, go notebook, or let me stop right there, because there was a period when I worked at Apple Retail. There was a whole thing about not saying laptop, and yesterday, right in the keynote, they used the laptop over and over again.
Yeah, I was there when they emphasized the don't call it a laptop era.
Yeah, it's a notebook, because they didn't want you putting it on your lap for heat reasons.
Yeah, because the Intel chips ran so damn hot.
Yeah, not as hot as the G5.
True.
Those were never in a notebook.
And Apple Silicon does not run nearly as hot.
I guess their legal department, let that one go. Anyway, I'm with the exception of the Ultra, the M2 Ultra, or even you couldn't get the you couldn't get the M1 Ultra or the M2 Ultra in a notebook class computer. It was only desktop. And so if you're in a place where the M Integer Pro or Mac or M Integer Max is enough for you, you can get enough CPU, GPU cores, enough memory with that SoC, then I don't know why you would buy a desktop at all.
Well, I think that's where I keep going back to. I don't have a good frame of reference for what I would need leverage. Because part of me wants to say go all in on the best CPU I can get. But then just knowing what the M1 can do, not even the M1 Pro, but just knowing what the M1 has shown it can do, I think memory is really more important for my purposes than the actual chip. But how is that going to evolve over the next couple of iterations for the Pro apps? And that's where I keep getting stuck, because we're too early in the chip roadmap to really know how much time I can get out of, let's just say, a base M1 as opposed to an M1 Pro as opposed to an M1 Ultra if the amount of RAM is comparable as a benchmark to test.
Yeah, I understand that, because it's like, it's so unknown because you've never been in this space before, and it's not something that you can figure out in 2 weeks, which is incidentally, if you get it around the holidays, you've got 1 month. I guess you have until January 30th or something like that to make a return.
Yeah, I think so. I think it starts in November, and then you have until January.
Yeah, which is a significant amount of time. So,
yeah, the main problem is that I'm so accustomed to trying to spec for what I know will get me, 3 to 5 years out of a machine, that the number of iterations and changes where you can, the M1s shipped with base models having 8 gigs of RAM, and you can configure an M2 Ultra with 192 gigs of RAM. That's a huge difference between capabilities at each extreme. And so figuring out kind of where, like the M1 Pro versus the M2 Pro being probably where I would settle versus the Max, maybe, I don't know. Like there's that kind of what's the good middle ground that's going to see me, 3 years at least, preferably 5.
Well, I think, all I've got to go on right now is like Intel, and for my purposes, I'm still good with 16 gigs of RAM on a 6-core Intel machine.
Define good, because that's where I've realized. So I've got a 8-core Intel machine with 32 gigs of RAM for my personal workstation.
Good is I'm not really I'm not doing anything that is pushing the envelope for memory, and it's only been maybe like a month where I'm like, this isn't quite as snappy as it used to be, and it's like, so it does, and some of it has been like, oh, it's been software related, and a restart has resolved it. Like I've had a few issues here and there, and a restart resolved it. And so that, I guess, it could happen on any computer. So
yeah, I don't know. I follow.
I'm not. I don't think I'm going to be putting a computer through its paces as you would. So like the memory thing there's not a question mark. Like if I got 32 gigs of RAM in a computer, I think I would be fine for the next 5 years.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, and it's tough to say for sure without a larger sample size, but what it feels like between using the M1 Mini that I've got with 8 gigs of RAM and my i7 with 32 gigs of RAM, it feels like I could probably go with the lowest chip I could get away with 32 gigs or more of RAM. But if I really want to be safe, I'd bump that to 64. And that should handle everything that I would need, or not have me in a state where I was wishing for more. But again, it's without a larger sample size and actually trying workloads on a machine, it's so tough to tell. It's all based on reading what people are saying and trying to interpret what's that actually mean from my workflow.
I think that for me, it's like I could go pretty low end and be okay, and then if it turns out I'm not okay, then whatever it is that's making it not okay should be I should be making money from that to cover the cost.
You mean from the project that's making it not okay? Yeah. If
like the
if
project
any of
that's
my
pushing the
I was just thinking, if any of my projects make a profit, I'm going to be surprised. But
yeah, same.
But I do follow. I do.
I'm not seeking that out. That's not where I'm going. Like I kind of want to do that, but like looking at it, it's like I've got too much like regular jobby job stuff to really, like I want to, like if you want to become somebody that is making money to just cover the cost of a new computer on from YouTube videos. I mean, that's years in the making. Like you don't get that overnight. Or if you do, you were in the right place at the right time doing exactly the right thing, and that's lucky.
Yeah, I think at this point I would like for just any side project to just generate a little bit of income, just for, trivial reasons, not specifically for the income stream, but for the fact that I know it's doing something or reaching a certain subset of people,
Yeah, yeah.
For the feedback aspect. That's a good way to think of it.
I think that's a great way of thinking about that. I would love it if this podcast was, generated enough income to like cover the cost of a new computer and display, just so that it doesn't feel like, so it'd be like, hey, look, I made this money for my podcast. I use this for my podcast, and then like here, like I have this really nice computer that I get to use for other things because I made money from a podcast.
Yeah, would certainly be nice. I hear there's a market in a new computing platform if you want to shift toward development routes.
Yeah, I do. That's a good idea. Well, before you do that, were you underwhelmed by the Mac Pro?
Not really. It kind of hit where I expected. I think I'm more surprised that the price point is as high as it is, but I think part of that is also just not really being aware of the extra cards and all that might be available at this point. I'm so far removed from the needs of having a Mac Pro that I don't even really get the ecosystem around it anymore.
Yeah, I think it's I don't know which is more niche at this point, the new thing or this Mac Pro.
I would say the new thing, definitely, only because I can see any major studio using Mac Pros just for sheer power purposes. Because it's funny, when they were talking about the capabilities and hooking up, 6 XDR Pro displays or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And the real-time multiple streams, blah, blah, blah. My initial thought was, okay, now they're just showing off. But I can actually see where that would be phenomenal in a studio setting. So
yeah, oh yeah.
So I do think that at the moment, the new thing is definitely more niche. It may be more interesting, but still more niche.
I think that's a good assessment. My only concern is that I think it should be around. I don't. Even if it's a basically the same thing as a Mac Studio tucked up in the top left, based on how they've depicted it, top left corner of the computer case. I'm glad it still exists. There are people that will use it, people that need it that will use it. I hope that it's not priced in such a way to get rid of it. To whoever, there's obviously people who want it in Apple and there might be people who don't want it. And I'm hoping it's not priced in such a way that it will be used as leverage to be like, yeah, look at the numbers. The cost, the numbers that we're selling it is dwindling. We need to get rid of it. No more development on it. But I was like, I bet there are tons of people inside of Apple like, no, this is what we want to develop with. So.
Yeah, I mean,
Mac Studio.
I can see the concern, but one of the things I had to remind myself a couple of times, like back with even looking at the pros, because the MacBook Pro you could price pretty close or over the price of the Mac Pro, the base price. When you actually look at the people who leverage the capabilities of some of those devices and thinking about in conjunction with the Pro XDR display, some of the things, the combination of things that you get, what you would spend for the equivalent performance is on par or higher. It's actually a more economical choice to choose the Mac, even at what seems like an absurd price point for most users, because most users aren't in that specific market set. And I'm bad about it too. I really am, because I've priced so many different MacBook Pros in the 14 and 16 inch both, trying to get it to a price point that I was like, okay, I can pull the trigger on that. And it's always much higher that I end up configuring it for. And part of it is that I still am stuck in this mindset of I have to go toward the top end of what the offerings are. And I don't think that's actually the case anymore. I think the lower end works well for my needs, even with the different creative endeavors. The problem is that I don't have a machine to test with my workflows on. And that's the only reason that I keep erring on the side of going higher than I need to, with the exception of storage, where I think Apple is still just screwed up in the head that they're charging so much for storage. But that they've always done that. They always will do that, I'm sure. And I know that you can make the argument about it being premium storage and fast and everything else. Fine, whatever arguments you want to make are still not worth having to do like a $2,000 upsell charge for me to get an adequate amount of storage for today's possible workflows.
Yeah. I was just thinking, you could probably do everything you want on an M1 MacBook Air. I think you'd feel. I think you would feel it, but you could do it with. I mean, where you wouldn't be able to do that on the Intel MacBook Air.
Yeah, I would say that's an accurate assessment, because like the M1 Mac Mini, I intentionally ordered with 8 gigs of RAM so that I would know how it felt at its minimal configuration for the most part. And it, unless I'm trying to do multiple things at once, I don't really notice it, which is why I'm pretty sure I don't need to go over the 32 gig threshold. I think because of how efficiently it uses the memory at that point, I wouldn't notice anything unless the different apps that I use start being, I just lost the word, tailored and streamlined more to be able to really leverage those resources available, and there becomes a significant difference between 32 and 64. And I'm sure there already is to some extent, but for my workflows, that difference wouldn't be as significant as some other people's. Like, I'm not doing as much compositing work and all as others might be, or I'm certainly not recording and mixing near as many tracks as a lot of others would be. And so the lower amount of memory capacity would probably be more than sufficient, but I do think I need to at least hit that 32 gig mark.
I think even if nothing else, 32 gigs is a good for future proofing.
You know, up until they released the ability to configure up to 192 gigs, I felt pretty good about that.
So, how do you feel about these Realplayer One ski goggles?
Ready Player One?
Ready Player One, thank you. Realplayer was a terrible piece of software.
Yes. Whereas Ready Player One was a phenomenal book, and the movie was a little more lackluster. But
yeah, I didn't see the movie because I was waiting for the book to come out.
The book definitely came before the movie, just in case somebody didn't catch that. I do like the technology. I think it's really neat. I think it's a interesting way to move immersion forward, and I think it definitely helps to remove barriers that might be present with people wanting to go with larger screens and things of that nature. Reduces the physical footprint, etc. There are a lot of things about the technology itself that I find really intriguing, and I want to see where it goes. I'm not really interested in any product like this while it's goggles, though. For me personally, I love the idea of like sunglasses or regular size glasses, maybe a little bit bulkier, that give me real-time overlays in looking at information and things. I love the concept, but I don't like the idea of something that's more isolating, like goggles are, that remove you from the physical environment more so than like just eyeglasses do. And I think that's where I have a lot of trouble with this product, because I get that they're really trying to walk that line. I mean, they emphasized not having it be something that completely isolates you from the environment, like, say, the Oculus stuff, right, where you don't know anything about what's going on around you. But it's still, I have concerns there. Yeah, true. I mean, you absolutely can have it happen. But they emphasized that it wasn't designed to completely remove the physical world from your experience. I'll put it that way. And so I like that there's a mindfulness to that aspect that they're showing and trying to be cognizant of, which I think means that it's the evolution of this product will probably continue to keep that in mind. You don't typically have something like that in a V1 product that is not well thought out and designed as being a core functional component. Otherwise, you would just do goggles without caring about the outside world. But I still, that is one of my big concerns in general with any kind of AR, VR experience. And that's where I have a tough time accepting the technology, because I can see, I mean, even without this type of experience, there are plenty of cases of people being sucked into a virtual world just on a regular computer screen, right?
Or even like video games.
Right. And this, to me, this is an evolution of that could be significantly worse, or it could just be on par with what we've already seen with what some games have been able to do. And that's where my concerns generally kind of lie. Like I like the presence of both. I'm not trying to say that just because this can happen, this should be banned and everything else. It's just, this is one of those concerns that I hold. And I don't have a good answer for how to walk that line between falling into a complete break with reality versus having a healthy balance of both. And on the flip side of it, one thing I want to emphasize real quick, you might be in a position where escaping your reality is absolutely better for you. I recognize that extreme also exists. And that's what makes this such a difficult topic in general to really navigate and find a balance that is fair to everyone.
Yeah, this is a thing where if we had, and maybe this is not as much of a problem in other parts of the world, but if we had better mental health practices in this country, this might be. Because like as you were talking about it, well, the first thought I had was like, the battery life is only 2 hours, so you're limited. But I'm sure you can plug it in to a power source that does not will continually power it. So, the other thing is like I think this is already an issue with people's phones. Like I mentioned video games. You mentioned like there's already like people that immerse themselves into their computers. But I was like, I think the thing that we as a society that we immerse ourselves into more than anything else is our phones. And there are so many articles written about, like so many apps written for so much done to strike the balance that we need. Like, hey, here, my phone is a tool that I use for work, for communication, for, various positive endeavors, but also, it's a thing that I get lost in, I get stuck in, and it can be problematic. But prior to the phone, other technologies, we saw this with gambling. We saw this with a number of other things. So it's no matter, as humans, I think no matter what is available to us, there are people that have a predisposition to abuse something. And so I think it's not that, oh, you're an abuser of this technology or this, whatever. Our response should be, we need to make help readily available for people who are predisposed to this sort of whether it's your phone or VR or a computer game, a video game, gambling, sex, food, whatever it is, that's where we should be going. So that's like it's not a, it's definitely a concern, but it's not the thing. It's not like, oh, this is a concern that makes me think that this should not exist. I think that's not the, I don't like that route.
Yeah, and I would agree. I was hoping that I was describing it in a way where I'm not advocating against anything specifically existing.
I don't think you were.
And I do think one of the big things, or one of the potentially big things coming out of the announcements, is that there's more of a focus on mental health. We didn't talk about it, but there's the tracking mood and being able to kind of infer trajectories for maybe you want to talk to somebody kind of thing. There's at least an emphasis on attempting to understand and help promote some level of mental health with the new OS and some of the features there. And I think that's a great thing. And I think my biggest thing is that as long as things are continued to be developed with those types of I don't want to call them interruptions, those types of additions or thoughtfulness to ways to make sure that you don't just completely isolate yourself from everything. For example, with the goggles, the Vision Pro, right? And that the marketing term.
Vision Pro. That's what they're calling it.
Yeah, if a person comes close, you get some indicator that a person has approached you, which you would not necessarily get with other offerings on the market at this point. Those are the kinds of little things that I think, as long as technologies like these are continuing to be developed with some aspect of promoting awareness of environment and awareness of potential personal health issues to the extent possible. Like, obviously the watch is going to give you a lot more insight to personal health than the phone, and the combination of the two even more than what one or the other would give. But those types of things compound on themselves to create a set of things and experiences that are more positive than most of the alternatives that we've seen from competitors up to this point. And I think that's a great thing. And it's why I at least have some level of positive feelings toward where this AR offering goes. But in its initial iteration, it's just not for me.
It's not for me either. It'd be a kind of thing. I was like, I wish I could take one of these whenever I go on an airplane.
I do think the immersion aspect of and virtual travel could be a huge thing.
Yeah.
I mean, part of me obviously wants to say, well, no, it's not the same as going there, right? But
it's definitely not. No, I don't think that it. I don't think that you were advocating that it is the same as going there. But I'm just like,
well, what I was going to say is that part of me thinks about it like the idea of the holodeck from Star Trek. Just because it doesn't actually exist doesn't mean it can't be an enjoyable experience and exploration, right? Like, I'm never going to climb Everest, but if I could put on the goggles and be able to see what I would see from the top of Everest, that'd be a phenomenal experience. Or hell, if I could put on the goggles and go the entire path as though I hiked Everest, it's not going to feel the same, and it's definitely not going to be the same, but I can at least understand the experience.
So what's interesting to me, and I try not to sidetrack too far from here, but what's interesting to me is this has given me more sci-fi vibes than like any of the other VR things I've ever seen. And the reason is, I can't remember who said this, but somebody said that every episode of Black Mirror exists on some tech company's roadmap. And so I think I don't know what part about it is, but there's there's a feature of the Vision Pro where people can see your eyes. You know, you've got these goggles on your face, and people can see your eyes. And I was like, that's really interesting how they are letting that through. That doesn't make, like I wasn't 100% sure. But and as the keynote went on, it's like, oh, those are not your actual eyes. That's a video. Like there is a screen, an outward facing screen for people not wearing the goggles to see your eyes. And that felt very Black Mirror to me.
I can see that for sure. Like I wouldn't argue. I don't want to sound like I want to argue it at all.
No. You can. A different perspective.
Well, the way I looked at it, while I agree as far as you describe it, it's like, yeah, sure, I see that. My thought was that it felt more like this is a way to make sure the two worlds are still connected, the virtual and the physical. Because there's no way at the moment with current technologies that you're going to pull this off with what I would like to see, which would be eyeglasses or sunglasses that do this, right? So what's the next best thing? Well, if there's a way for the person wearing the goggles to be able to see the outside world, then there should also be a way for the outside world to see when the person wearing goggles is engaged with the outside world. And so that, to me, that just made a logical behavioral step, or behavioral, it's not quite the right word, but social cues is probably a better way to think of it. But the general idea that I can still at least see your focus is on me, as opposed to when it's this swirling pattern or whatever that's completely obscuring any semblance of eyes, I know your focus is not on anything in the physical world. And I liked the attempt to navigate that. I don't necessarily think the implementation is good, but I'm not going to think any implementation is good until I can just put on a pair of eyeglasses and I have whatever I want overlaid on the world.
Yeah.
Like, to me, that's the pinnacle of AR technology. And until I can do that, it's falling short of what I want to see it be.
I'm a little more. I need more. Like I want to wear nothing. Like ultimately, I want to wear nothing. I want holograms. I want high definition holograms in front of me. So that's what I mentioned to you yesterday.
Yeah. So the funny thing is, the way I think about that is either you're wearing something or something is implanted. Like there's no way to change the human body.
Or something is projected.
Right, but then you still have to carry that around, right? There's still some external device.
Yeah, and so that's where it's like, depending on what you're wanting to do, it's like, yeah, so if you're wanting like I like how you put it up, the Terminator heads-up display, then yeah, you're gonna have to wear something. Even if it's a contact lens, which I think it has been done, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, you'll need to wear something for that. I was thinking about like something I've been talking about for the past 20 years. When I remember when high definition TVs were, I was looking at them 20 years ago in Best Buy ads, and they were like $20,000 for a 60-inch TV. I was like, nah, come on, I want holograms. I want high definition holograms, and I want to be able to like watch a sporting event from like a table surface where I can see the entire view of the field. And when Bob Iger was on stage, he showed that with a basketball match. And I was like, I want that, but I want it projected. And as I'm speaking about it, I know I'm going on and on, but as I'm speaking about it, it made me think about like, why am I okay with that, but not, like I had some reaction, not visceral or anything, but just some reaction to the idea of like watching someone go to Everest and immerse myself in an Everest trip or any other trip. I'm like, oh, why do I have that reaction? Because being at a game is much better than watching it.
Yeah, I mean, so I certainly agree. Like the way I have always thought about it, like what I would really like to see is the holograms are great. I agree with that, and I agree with being able to watch it from pretty much any perspective. But like I want to be able to manipulate that perspective. I want to be able to zoom in and watch it from whatever point that I happen to choose. Like if it's the middle of the court, for example, on a basketball game, I should be able to position myself in the middle of the court and watch the action unfold around me. I don't know of any technology like that exists at this point. Like holographic displays, at least to a theoretical extent, exist. But being able to take that display and manipulate it, I don't think, well, I'm sure some level of that exists, but not to the extent that I'm discussing or longing for. Or if so, then the Defense Department's been holding out on us for a bit. But like I want to be able to take anything that I'm watching and manipulate it in real time around me. Or maybe I want to look at it from the top down, like an aerial view for, a Premier League match. But then maybe I want to zoom in and watch it from the goalkeeper's perspective, or midfield, or wherever. Like the ability to manipulate that view, I think, is the pinnacle of entertainment. And I don't see us getting to there in my lifetime. I mean, I would love to be proven wrong, but I don't see, based on how things have changed over time, I think the best I can hope for is maybe getting that without it being a hologram and instead being AR goggles.
Have you seen the movie Strange Days?
It's not ringing a bell off the top of my head.
It's on HBO Max right now. You should. It's not a great movie, but it's worth watching. At least find it. If at a bare minimum, I'll find the trailer. But there's a. This is a Catherine Bigelow directed movie from 1995 that takes place on New Year's Eve, 1999. So about to turn of the go to 2000. It's got Ralph Fiennes and Angela Bassett and Tom Sizemore and Juliette Lewis, and it's where Juliette Lewis got her music career started, playing her character. Anyway, there is a technology that is available where it's incredibly non-invasive. It's clunky. Maybe not by 1995 standards, but even like by today's standards, it's not that. It's less clunky than the Vision Pro. And what it is you put it on this head, or you put it on your head, so it's touching your noggin. And I'm pretty sure that the experiences that you have with it are recorded on mini disc. I'm pretty sure they use mini disc in this movie for how you could get this. Like, it's been a while since I've seen it. And essentially, instead of you, let's say, watching the basketball game, you are the basketball player. So you see what he sees or she sees. You feel what they're feeling. So you feel the adrenaline rush. You feel the movement. You feel the anxiety. So it's like it's basically something that you record these events, and then you can replay the events, and it tells your body to, tells your brain to do all these things. It gives, basically taking the idea of like everything that you experience in the world is a perception that your brain interprets. And here, let us record everything that happens in this person as they experience this thing. And here you get to do it safely. Like one of the in the movie, they use one where a guy is robbing a liquor store, and you find out at the very end that the guy who's recording it dies, and you're like, I didn't know he was gonna die, and you feel dying. It's an interesting concept.
I'll have to check it out, but it does sound very similar to what I was describing. The difference being that instead of it being like a recorded experience, I want to be able to more or less do that in real time.
Yeah. And so, I mean, if you can record it, why can't you do it in real time? So, You probably start with recordings, but
I'm sure.
If you could create that technology, then you could it'll eventually be something that can be done in real time. And then it's like, if you're able to duplicate these things, then how much does it, when does it, the cost become nearly, let me rephrase, when does it become incredibly accessible?
Well, and I think then you also open up the the debate about what's real. If you're living this experience, how is it not real for you as well?
Well, I think it does become real for you, but it's not the same because you don't have to deal with the certain consequences. Like I think you end up with something that can be incredibly dangerous, like because somebody's decided, like, I'm going to go knock off a liquor store so that I can record it and then sell it, for profit, not for the profit of like what I took from the liquor store, but for the profit of the recording that I created, so that other people can experience this thing without having to undergo the or be subjected to the negative ramifications of it. And so something like that I would expect would be like, oh, and it's illegal to do that because you're committing a crime, because you couldn't really fake it. You can't, you can't record it. Maybe you can't. Maybe you can. Maybe that is a thing where you study, like, what is it like? How much adrenaline should your body release? And you do record something like that. One of the other examples they gave was a man wore the headset and was the receiver of lesbian sex, and so, like, I feel like the industry that would probably push this the most would be, well, I don't think they would be the industry that pushes this the most, but I think it would be the first one to really take advantage of that. It would be the porn industry.
I mean, historically, it's either the porn industry or gaming. One of the two is going to push technology forward.
It will, because because the money is there, and I think there's a certain decorum that some of these industries just don't give a fuck about anymore. We have a number of different ways set up for you to get in touch with us to provide feedback, ask questions, or just comment in about something we've discussed.
You can hit us up on Twitter or Instagram at untitled_hosts, or shoot an email over to untitled.hosts@gmail.com.
Or get in touch directly with Jesse at jthart.com, or get in touch with me, John, via telepathy.
If you would like to support our work or are interested in listening to our new after-show feed, head over to patreon.com/theUntitledPodcast and take a look at the options we have set up.
Thank you for listening.
We hope you've enjoyed the show.
And we hope to connect with more of you as we continue this journey.
That's a wrap.